like Brazil.
Right. All right. So there we have the two major drivers of inflation on the food sub-segment, because we normally have fuel and food, the big ones. Now, fuel, we understand what's going on there, but in food, that is even more touchy. Ken, just looking at, first of all, the onions. Apparently, onions are a big deal right now. Prices have really hiked, and they're driving inflation, food inflation, quite high. I don't know, because we import some of the onions in Tanzania. We've seen that was affected. There was a slowdown on that, and also local production. How do we shield ourselves from that? Is it a seasonal thing or not?
Well, that's quite fascinating. 65% increase is not a small number. Obviously, there are demand side issues and the supply side issues, which the governor has talked about. I think on the demand side, it's just is a bigger demand for products that involve onions. All these restaurants that are cropping up, serving dry fries, wet fries, all that's onion consumption. But on the supply side, as you said, the Tanzanian part has been a bit subdued. So we are starting to see farmers around Oloitoktok starting to come up, but they don't have the capacity to meet the local demand because we've been so dependent on Tanzania. So I think it's a bigger narrative on how do we start building local capacity so that when our partners can't supply enough, we have enough within our borders.
Definitely. Dr. Olonyi, you know, there's this meal called onion rings that a lot of people apply, and it's beloved by many. And when we see such prices, we start asking ourselves, I mean, why are we not able to supply enough quantity for the demand that we have? Might there be an incentive of, you know, pushing more onion production to sort of avert this 65.5% increase in prices?
I think just from where Ken has left it, an issue of capacity. There are people who would actually want, in Kenya, there's always the people who are geared to try new things and also to try farming, like we have seen in the apple and the rest of the things. So I think let's have the capacity to be built, and I think the ministry concerned, that's the Ministry of Agriculture, should actually take it up and also coordinate with the universities which are actually doing agriculture, Jomo Kenyatta University, Egerton University, and just to ensure that we have our own onion. You know, okay, from the governor, you heard that we are importing a lot from Tanzania. Why should we import a lot of onions from Tanzania when we have the capacity to produce? I think it's good time when we need to have the agri-industry coordination, collaboration, so that we can actually enhance onion farming and also checking the seeds, the types of onions. No, you say onion rings, people love it. I think let's get from our research institution the one that will actually give us the more resistant and good quality of onion, and also coordinate between the ministry, the training institutions, work with the government and the areas that are good, suitable for onion, and we have the crop grown from us.
Definitely.
Yeah,
that's very important. Ken, you wanted to add something on that, or?
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely. Just building up on Prof's point, we don't get enough young people entering agriculture. The average age of the Kenyan farmer is in the mid-60s. So the big question is, when are young people going to get? And it starts with the universities. Enrollment into agricultural courses is at an all-time low. Even at the historically agricultural universities, young people don't see a career as wealthy farmers, which is very different from the United States, where you find farming is actually a means to a wealthy life. So I think there's a big narrative there around how do we get younger people involved in agribusiness, as they like to put it.
Definitely. And the issue of sugar also comes in very strongly. I know sugar is one of the most consumed, and we saw the prices really high, especially last year. They went really up. People are saying, I mean, what exactly is going on? And this was also built on the issue about, there's contaminated sugar, very sensitive sector to put it. And just looking, it was also a major driver of inflation, Ken. And you've heard the governor talk about it, speaking about some of the interventions the government is doing. This reminds us of the sugar belt, yeah, and the good old days. What happened is the better economic, bottom-up economic transformation agenda reviving. Have you seen that intentionality to revive sugar sector?
Well, we've been told that mambo ni matatu, and it came to that. But I think broadly speaking on the sugar industry and generally farming, again, the governor has spoken about Brazil not being able to meet demand. Again, Prof would ask, why are we depending on foreign countries when we have the climate, we have the soil? Obviously, politics plays a big role in our local sugar industry, and maybe that has curtailed the extent to which it can deliver. But there is that feeling that using technology, using proper management, we still have enough capacity to be able to meet Kenya's needs. So I think it's just really the Ministry of Agriculture coming up with a very production-based strategy. How do we utilize all these idle land into cultivating onions, into producing sugar canes? And it's very possible, as you've said, the sugar belt, then you remember from the 70s and the 80s, that was the golden age of sugarcane. And I think we can actually replicate that particular period. But we need proper extension services, funding. Farmers need to use the latest technology, the latest authentic fertilizer. All these things have to be able to be put in. Yeah.
Hey, Kurt, you have jobs, bro. You're like the latest authentic fertilizer, because we have an issue with fake fertilizer, and I'm told the narrative is changing around fake fertilizer again. Sometimes you sit back and you watch and you're like, this is like a movie. It's like Findio. Anyways, Prof, with sugar, yeah? I don't know whether now we're being told it's export-led growth, but we've had capacity initially to produce for the local market. Look at the Mumias, the Butali sugars, the West Kenya. All these were game changers. When did the rain start beating us? And is there hope, or now our hope lies in Brazil with the Neymars and Ronaldinhos of this world?
Exactly. I would still put it again. Why would we depend on Brazil for sugar that we consume here? When we have evidence that we can produce sugar in Kenya, and we can actually produce enough for us and export. Where we lost it is where we mistreated the farmer, where we actually went with the farmer's resources away, where corruption got into the sugar industries, where we were not able to do proper roads for the sugarcane plantation coordination, where we actually lost the competition. In other words, we were producing sugar, but we could not produce it competitively in terms of the price. Like you had sometimes back, we could actually produce it cheaply in Sudan than in Kenya. So we need to revisit where we lost the lack of the competitive edge in terms of our production of sugar. Again, the issue of the seeds, the variety of sugar. We need to get the seeds that are actually able to mature earlier, so that we can be able to have them taken to the factories earlier. We're relying on the old kind of seeds of the seedlings of sugar that takes a long period of time. So it's good to revisit our planting technology, to revisit our competitiveness, and also to reduce the corruption hiyo mambo ni matatu should actually become real, so that because we either sleep in the same bed with the corruption, or we get the right services and products. So I think that is where we actually seem to have lost it. But
Okay.
all hope is not gone.
Yes.
Because the factories are still there.
Okay.
We still have Sony Sugar. We still have Nzoia. We still have Moroni, Chemelil. We still have Mumias Sugar. And I think it's a question of management.
Yes.
Let's do proper management of our resources, and let's excel in our production.
Okay,
Yeah.
definitely. That's very important. And talking about production, normally we have a way that we measure productivity in this country. It's called GDP. Now, there's something called real GDP.